All right, everybody, today I want to go over my a6600 rig that I've been using for the past few months to shoot all the videos on this YouTube channel, as well as a lot of client work and some like really light docu work as well. So I'm kind of excited about this rig. I've been interested in video for a long time, and I feel like this is the best rig I've actually pulled together before. I think it solves a lot of problems that a lot of us have when we're trying to shoot high quality video with stills bodies. So a lot of this stuff is going to apply to any camera, whether you're shooting with a Canon, a Nikon, a Sony, it doesn't really matter. It's going to work for any of them. But my specific camera that I'm shooting with is the a6600. So I picked this camera for a number of reasons that I'll get into in a different video. But there's a couple things that I really need to fix with this camera. Some of them are things you fix with any camera, some of them are specific to this one. The first thing is stills cameras aren't just covered in mounting points for lots of extra handles, lights, mics, whatever else you might be adding on, monitors. So I got a cage on here. So this is the small rig cage. And I really like small rigs cages. I know that there's other options out there. I know Tilta makes really good cages. There's lots of kind of third-party cages as well. Well, I guess they're all third-party, but there's lots of other kind of knockoff brands beyond small rig. But this cage gives you access to every port on the camera. It gives you access to every button and every dial completely unobstructed. And I actually think it makes holding the camera easier. It adds weight to the camera. I see no reason to ever take this off, which is nice because I had an a6300 a few years ago with a cage that it wasn't super comfortable with the cage on. It was like a big metal bar coming up the side that just would kind of jet into your hand. So small rig's getting better. They also add tons of like little nice adjustments like this little tool here to help take off the cage here on the bottom of the camera. I've got a couple other little attachments I've added to just the cage that I never take off. I've got a NATO rail on top here for something we're gonna get to in a minute. I've got my quick release plate. This is a Peak Design quick release plate. I believe it's Arca Swiss. So it works with my tripod, but it also works with my Peak Design clip. I believe it's called a Peak Design capture clip. And I love that thing. I've been using it super hard. I actually used the first one for like 2 years. Just upgraded to the second generation. I really like that capture clip. It adds some drama, but being able to have your camera out is really nice, especially when you build it up really big. It can be awkward in a bag. But let's go ahead and get started with some of the problems with shooting a camera like this and some of the ways that building out a rig can help solve that. So with small APS-C or full frame stills cameras, Micro Four Thirds as well, stabilization is one of the biggest things you're gonna be fighting. They're small, they're light, and micro shakes and micro jitters are a problem. With the slow scanning sensors, rolling shutter can also cause a massive amount of wobble in your image and make it just kind of look like trash or maybe even kind of sickening. So you can obviously do gimbals, but gimbals are time consuming to set up. They can be useful in some situations. They're really not usable in others. Obviously tripods can be kind of boring. I love handheld shooting as well. Just the look of it. I like a little bit of shake, a little bit of that floaty look that you get from it. It's kind of gritty, especially for the vlogs we do. It's also just, let's be honest, it's a lot easier than bringing a 3.5 pound gimbal everywhere we go on these hiking trips. So what I did is I got a couple of handles to both add weight, but also just make it easier to hold the camera. So the handles I have here, this is top handle. Once again, that NATO rail, this is what I use it for. And I really like how the quick release this is. If you just get one handle, I highly recommend getting the top handle. It's really nice. You can cradle it. You can kind of let gravity do a lot of the work for you to stabilize it. It takes a little bit more practice, I feel, to use a top handle, but once you kind of get the hang of using a top I guess that's kind of hanging the camera. It's a stupid joke, but once you get the hang of using one of these, you definitely are going to find yourself just completely dependent on it. I mean, I will always buy a cage and use my NATO rail and everything else for every camera I own in the future because this is really useful. I also have a side handle. I feel like the side handle is really cool, but potentially slightly more Situational, perhaps, would be the word I'll use. I feel like for this camera in particular, it does help with the rolling shutter issues, as well as other things you can tell that don't actually take it on and off very often because I don't have a quick release for it. Something I highly recommend doing is getting a quick release for everything on there. You want to be able to put that attachment on, and you want to be able to take it off, and as you can tell, you want to be able to build your rig pretty quick. And this is not awful, but this isn't quite toolless. Just as a notation, it's kind of a nice thing about small rig. This is still kind of loose, so it doesn't really work. But inside the top handle, you have your Allen wrench, and it's built so you can ratchet it down like this. Get it really, really tight. And of course, this also helps taking it off. It's also nice because this is also good for taking the quick release plate off. It perfectly fits the quick release plate, which is really nice when you need to switch out the quick release plate for something like a gimbal. But now this is really locked down. You can hold it like this, you can hold it from the side, you can even hold it from the grips if you wanted, but lots of different holding options. It makes holding the camera a lot of different ways. In a lot of ways, I think this is the most underrated upgrade, but I think it's totally worth it. It's one of the cheapest things you can do. Get a side handle, get a top handle. You could buy both of these for like $100. This one's definitely, I have a slightly nicer side handle and top handle, so I think together these would cost like maybe $150 for together. But really a pretty cheap way to really upgrade the stabilization of your camera. All right, so the next problem is, of course, audio. Everybody knows that the internal audio on these cameras is trash. So what I have here is the Rode, I think this is the Rode Pro Plus that I have here. So this is the newer Pro microphone that Rode makes. I have to say that I really tried to work with the cheaper microphones for a long time, the Micro as well as the VideoMic Go. And I actually broke both of them. I didn't actually break the main microphone, I broke the shock mounts on them, which is problematic, as you might imagine, because then you can't actually put the microphone anywhere. Now you can of course buy replacements or get them repaired or tape it back together again, but this is really bulletproof. And then also the audio on both the Micro and the Go is good, but the audio off of this is amazing. So I highly recommend, if you have the $300, go ahead and buy yourself the really nice mic. It may be worth even having this microphone and a Micro. I know that I'm happy to have both at this point, but I use this one 95% of the time because it's just really good. I also own a wireless Go set, which is really nice for like when you're shooting an interview or something like that. I love those as well, but this is great for environmental vlogging, run and gun shooting. All right, on-camera light. So this is maybe the most niche thing that I have in my kit. Not everybody's gonna want an on-camera light, but I find it really useful for doing the mountain videos in particular. And of course you can use this off camera as well, but this just goes right here. If you watch the videos, we shoot a lot before sunrise or after sunset, and that's where shooting with this comes really in handy. There's really no light, so it doesn't matter how good the low light performance is on the camera. Of course it helps, but in those situations, having just a light to just have on the camera, light what's right in front of it, it's awesome. But once again, maybe not just like anybody needs that. It really depends on what you're doing. All right, and lastly, I really like, on the same thread of like kind of controlling lighting, we have here a really fast 16 1.4, I think. So it's like a 24 millimeter equivalent. So you have full frame, that would be 24 mil, obviously f1.4. I believe Micro Four Thirds would be a 12 mil. But I really find having a really fast 24 mil is just incredibly useful in the field. It's fast, you can vlog with it, you can shoot B-roll with it. You could even shoot like interviews with it. And then of course, when the sun comes up and your shutter speed starts climbing, you can put this variable ND on there to hold to that 180 degree shutter rule. I am a stickler for smooth motion, and I really like my fader ND here. I recommend fader NDs for at least having one, but of course there are also advantages to having solid NDs as well. It's really just a conversation for another day. But here's kind of my kit fully organized. So obviously you've got the top and side handle, lume cube, you've got the Rode VMAX Pro Plus, and 16 1.4 in the fader ND. Of course, I have other lenses and other stuff to talk about in the future. If you enjoyed this video or learned anything, give it a like, or if you really liked it, give us a subscribe. I'll put a link up here to when I make this video. I'm gonna make a video on the a6600 specifically, kind of my thoughts on it, dive into that camera. So when that's finished, I'll link that up there. I'll also just show a video that I shot with this rig. I'll probably throw Huron up there or something like that. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.